Hey everybody, my name is Carissa Romaine. We are joining us in the studio at TEDx Beacon Street, and I have the pleasure of sitting here with Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics. You've been kind enough to give us your time today. We've asked you a lot of questions, but I've got a couple more for you, burning questions that I have to know. So I do want to start off, for those of you who hadn't seen us talk yet, go and check that out. Come back to us. But in the meantime, you did talk a lot about education and education reform, and I know that that's been a hot topic for you, something that you're really passionate about. But if you could, let's say you had a magic wand and you could wave it and fix one thing about the education system today, out of everything that's broken, out of everything that's kind of fractured and needs repositioning, what would be your first task?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
The first thing that comes to mind, and there's a lot of different things that you could choose from. I would say standardized testing.
Okay.
Growing up, it was like CRCT. It was all this it's a bunch of different types of formats that people take in different places. But I don't necessarily believe that those are like the best measures of intelligence.
For sure.
I think that there was a big scandal in Atlanta not too long ago, and is doing a movie about it. Ryan Coogler's doing a movie about it. Who did Black Panther. He did Creed, Fruitville Station. He's doing a movie about the scandal in Atlanta over the educational system where people were taking these standardized tests and they were altering their results.
Oh, really?
Based off of ethnicity, how much money your parents made, et cetera, location or whatever. So a lot of people got fired, and I grew up kind of in that era. So if y'all went into Ryan Coogler, tell him I need like a little movie part.
Right, like hook it up, Ryan Coogler. We're
But,
calling you out.
I think for sure standardized testing is one of the things that I would try to focus in on.
For sure. And I feel like a lot of school systems or people who come from areas of privilege can prepare for those standardized tests in a different way or, take classes or have mentors. So it does kind of present this unequal footing in a way. So
then there's like grading system, the way they grade, our kids based off of the A, B, C system. And it kind of takes away from like the actual growth process. Somebody who maybe just came to this country and they learned a tremendous amount, but they got a C. And somebody who had parents who taught them everything and they get straight A's. The person that got the C, I think, maybe had more of a growth experience, but the person that got the A is probably going to get more approval or applause.
Right.
And then it's like curriculum.
Spotlight.
There's so many things you could choose from. The curriculum they choose to teach based off of like what kind of class you're in, like whether you're in, advanced classes or kind of like standard classes.
Right.
Like who's to say like, kids learn at different rates and things like that, but who's to say certain kids are smarter than other kids, right? They just learn differently.
And intelligence is not determined based off of one thing. And I think that's kind of, like you were saying, that standard ABC system is such an issue for how we're judging kids and their achievements and what they're accomplishing these days.
Exactly.
So something else I wanted to ask you, actually, you said there was one day where it clicked for you, right? You went to school, you started to realize how the system was broken. I think there are a lot of times where people can see an issue and they understand an issue, but they're not so much moved to change it. So there must be something deep within you that pushes you to speak out like this. How do you specifically harness your power?
Well, it kind of really like I kind of like consider myself like a smart person, like a witty person.
Right.
And when I figured out that somebody had been outsmarting me my whole life,
you're like, no.
Like it hurts your feelings. Like
you're
it's
like, y'all ain't about to get me like that again.
they got me, and it sucked. Like that feeling like was painful to know that like as smart as you thought you was, somebody had been outsmarting you your whole entire life.
Right.
Like that was, and everybody around you, right? I never heard of any of these terms. I never knew like this was by design. I never know like this is the idea of America. I never thought that deep. So, and nobody ever around me was thinking necessarily that deep or could explain it for me to understand it. So once I started reading it for myself and putting terms with my pain, I kind of like started getting, the drift that I got to do something.
Right, and you don't know what you don't know at the end of the day.
Exactly.
So once you were kind of enlightened to it, that's when you took action, which is lovely. So another thing that kind of came to mind when I was thinking about you and your story and your journey is the fact that so many people look up to you now as a role model. People who are people of color, even non-people of color, people who are athletes, people who see you in a Celtics jersey, people who see you on these stages giving these talks. And it's an incredible thing that you've worked so hard for, and you're definitely earning the title of role model by giving back to those people. But who do you look up to?
I look up to a lot of people. I look up to I don't know. I draw inspiration from a lot of places.
Right.
But I guess you're asking me like who are like some of my idols that I've always
Idols, influences.
Does it have to be alive, or they can be?
I will take the living thing off the table. It can be anybody.
Okay.
Alive, dead.
I'll give
any
some
part
that
of
are
history.
alive. I would say Will Smith is one. Hearing his motivational speaks and stuff, and his talks and his family dynamic have always been like a great source of inspiration.
Such an enlightened family too.
Recently, I don't know too much about this one, but one of his actions led me to be inspired was Robert Smith, the one that took care of everybody's student.
Yes, that was such a huge story and so
dope.
inspiring.
Yeah, so.
Can you imagine sitting in that crowd and being like, "You're gonna pay for my what?"
What?
Like,
Yeah.
hello? Are you sure? Can we get it in writing?
And I come from a house, so like my mom still has like student debts and student loans and stuff like that from 20, 30 years ago. So
Follows you. It's a trap.
so for somebody to just erase that stress, that monkey on your back, and that is
Like, you'd be great.
That's love. Like I don't care what you got.
Unconditional love. That's
love.
a next level kind of love.
Exactly. So if I ever got to like the financial, I want to do something similar.
Right.
For sure, that's one. I guess dead. Harriet Tubman,
A boss.
just a rebel, right?
An absolute boss.
Feminine energy, for sure. I don't want to give all male figures, so Harriet Tubman for sure.
Yes. Fearlessness.
Give me a sec. Benjamin Banneker.
Yes.
For those who don't know who that is, look him up.
It's a
One
great
of
choice.
the most innovative people of his time. He was definitely ahead of his time, actually. I'm not going to give too much info about him because I'll encourage people
Look him up.
to look him up. Along with Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, etc. Those were great people of role models and influence.
Absolutely.
Gandhi, of course, Nelson Mandela. A lot of the given stuff that people
Right.
already know, but some
That's
maybe
great.
another one that people may not. Nikola Tesla,
Oh,
like
an innovator.
an innovator,
Someone who
creator.
thinks differently.
Yeah, so that's definitely been one of my role models.
You picked people from so many different facets of life, which tells me a lot about you. And so the last question I actually have for you is, you talk a lot about, passing it down and reaching down to help those who are coming after you. And I think there's also something to be said about passing it out to those around you, to your peers, who can also be allies in a way. So what would you say to people like me, to people like your friends and family and teammates, for how we can join and be a part of fixing an education system that's broken? What is our responsibility in this?
I think first off, the awareness, is the number one thing. Like I tell a lot of my friends, just being aware is so underappreciated.
Right.
I think that we're living in a society that where people of color, they've done so much to kind of navigate you away from like your history,
Yes.
navigate you
Try so
away
hard.
from your inner beliefs and things that your culture and things that make you you. So the
Right.
people who are still have those things intact, it makes it, I appreciate them that much more, right? So
Yeah.
that awareness, I would say first and foremost, but then just, spreading it in any way, shape, or form. I think it's like form of activism, really, because there's certain people that are comfortable the way the system is, and they probably won't say it publicly, but they are. They're okay with their kids getting to, they know they have privilege and they're okay with it, right? But I would say continue to spread the awareness. There's a bunch of people and a bunch of kids that don't have the privilege and don't have the access that you may or may not have.
Absolutely.
By acknowledging the privilege that you do have is already a great step into, putting the right energy back into the world.
Right. By pulling others into that allyship, we talk about it more, we make more noise, it becomes more of a publicly seen issue. So I really, really appreciate that answer. So thank you, Jaylen, so much for sitting down with us and answering some more questions,
No problem.
for kind of rounding out this TEDx Beacon Street experience. We really appreciate it, and just for sharing so much of your vulnerability and your journey. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And
All right.
thank you guys for checking in, and we'll see you guys next time.